Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sim Hound Academy Cup series we have running here at oNiD. Okay. Got a good one out for you guys today. It's going to be a very wet race. So these drivers are going to have a lot of tough battles to get through, especially with the speed of these LMP3s compared to the GT3s. This is round two. It should have been round three technically, but we had an issue with Sebring, so we bumped this up to round two, and we bumped Sebring back down to round six. We have the standings with Max Farrell leading the LMP3s with Kovacs right behind him and Harrison Webb in third. And then in the GT3 standings, we have Hosvep in first, Ben Law in second, and Chris Wacker in third. One race in the calendar, we don't really know how the battles are going to fight out, but basically have an idea. And we're into qualifying. I'm also joined by Scotty tonight instead of the usual Aiden Howard. So,
Yes,
Scotty,
hello.
how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's nice to be here back watching an LMU series, watching the inexperienced drivers getting to grips with LMU. Very tricky combination tonight. Portimao in the rain. Some say Portimao is one of the more slipperier tracks on the LMU game compared to the others, even in the dry. So adding some rain is certainly going to make it a bit more difficult. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the drivers fare. At least they don't have cold tires to worry about. But yeah, it could make for an interesting one. We've seen quite a few mistakes at the Mon when it was raining on Monday. I wonder just how many we will see this week.
Yeah, me too. I think it's definitely going to be tough because these LMP3s, they might have the grip of an LMP2 car more or less, but they don't have the actual mechanical grip of them. I mean, the aerodynamic grip. So they're very different. In the GT3s, obviously, they have ABS, so it's a little bit easier. You can, if you lose it into a corner, you can usually save yourself. But the LMP3s, they're unforgiving.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the most difficult part of this race is the lack of ABS in the LMP3s, especially when you have so many braking zones where the track is just cresting into them, or you're maybe even turning into them. This is one of the ones you're coming over this crest, getting onto the brakes. Very slow speed corner too. That's where it's most easiest to lock up is those slow speed corners, since you don't have the downforce on the car anymore. And then this braking zone could be very tricky in these conditions. Swing it into the right-hander and then slowing down for this tight right-hander also makes for a very tricky traction zone, trying to put the power down on the exit. Of course, traction control will help the cars, but won't necessarily save you if you try and get a little too aggressive. Coming up then to this double right-hander of turns 10 and 11. Ease the car into, again, tighter second apex. You're braking throughout that first right-hander. Again, over a crest as well, just to make things even more tricky. And then final few corners of lap into the final sector. Turn 13, long left-hander. And then you get to this very awkward penultimate corner. Turn 14, off camber, downhill. Car just wants to understeer through the whole way. But eventually you can pick up the throttle, run the car wide to the exit, and then hold the outside line through the final corner, which will be a bit tricky in these wet conditions. But very high speed corner. Could be important corner to get right when it comes to trying to overtake in the race to come.
Yeah, it's definitely, especially if you get caught up behind a GT3 with LMP3s, they don't have the necessarily the speed to get by really that much. You got to rely really on the downforce to get by these GT3s. And some of these corners you're braking a lot earlier than these GT3s, so it's going to be really hard for these guys to find the right angle or the right timing to get past these guys. I mean, I think we're gonna see if we start to get to laps and stuff like that, that people are going to struggle to get past people, and it's going to create a lot more battles for the LMP3s.
Yeah, it will be very difficult indeed when we get to that multi-class situation. But for now, we still have 10.5 minutes left on qualifying. The drivers getting their first laps completed. It's Johansson that's leading the way after the first laps in the LMP3. James Anderson leading the way in the GT3s. Just see Mark Brazen finishing their first lap in the 2 minutes. So just taking a little bit of time to get up to speed. Let's go to one of the LMP3s. Let's go to Harrison Webb, someone who's been pretty strong last season. Will be looking to have a good season. Not quite challenging for pole in the second lap, it seems, but still improving in both sectors. Through turn 13 here. Running on the curb, hopefully that doesn't disrupt their traction too much. Yeah, the curb's not super slippery here on LMU. Does look like track starting off very wet this session, but doesn't look like we have any rain. Let's actually just have a little look at what our weather is like. Oh, do you actually have a bit of rain? Interestingly enough, but very bright, sunny day for how much rain we apparently have. But Harrison Webb up to the line now will improve their time, but still a quarter of a second off Johansson until they improve to open the gap back up to half a second.
Ooh, slide. Oh, and he lost it. It's just so tricky around here. Fuchs really losing a lot of time here, but looks like he's struggling a little bit with the traction out of some of these corners.
Yeah, let's go to some of the GT3s that will be finishing their second lap soon. Ollie Knowles coming around at the moment, currently P7. Coming up to the line now. On for an improvement, will be up to P6, but still missing out on the top 5. Let's see who else is finishing a lap. Christian Schlink, apparently on an out lap, so waiting a little bit longer in the session. Ooh, running wide at the final corner. Hopefully hasn't invalidated there, as that will have cost them both this lap and their next lap. Bit annoying when you have to do a whole lap knowing that it's invalidated even before you started it.
Yeah, very annoying. That's unfortunately the way this track goes with that last corner. It's so tricky to do, and it's not very forgiving in the track limits either. So
as we see Kovacs through the penultimate corner, trying to get the car turned in, but the rear sliding out on them a little bit as well. Through the final corner now, taking a very wide line, it must be said. Going for a very late apex, and is actually going to come into the pits. Important to practice the pit entry. We will be seeing pit stops in the race. Let's see, Dan Stevens not improving on their lap. Is Harrison Webb's apparently back on an out lap. How about Johansson? So are they. So of course these drivers having tyre warmers means that they don't have to run such a longer stint as you might see on the Monday series. They can sort of just get in and go. Brian James Anderson also on an out lap as well. So it seems like a lot of drivers coming back to the pits and going for another attempt. Tom Watson also on a night lap. We'll maybe find someone who isn't on a night lap soon enough. Let's see, Ollie Knowles just finished a lap and is just starting one. How about we'll watch a bit of this lap from Ollie Knowles.
and the nice thing about this too is with them having tire warmers and the fact that wet tires are unlimited in LMU when unlike normal compound tires. So essentially, with having the tire warmers, they can just hop back into the pits, have those tires right at the temp, go out, try and set a better lap time.
Not been a great start to lap. 8/10 off the pole time so far. Not a personal best. Through the hairpin, understeering out, gets a little bit wide. That's certainly going to cost them on the exit there. Running their momentum up towards turn 6. So it seems like Ollie Knowles not quite getting this lap together. Let's see. Matt Hagan not improving in the first sector, but personal best middle sector, currently sitting in third. Needs to find a little bit of time to try and get P2 here, but runs out very wide. I think on the curb in the braking zone for turn 13 there, pushing them deep into turn 14. Gets the car turned in reasonably well, taking a very wide exit. It can work, but might not necessarily be the best. Just the final corner now to go. Doesn't seem to be very confident through the right-hander. Sort of had a couple of goes at turning the car in. You could hear just coasting into the corner, struggling with confidence. Comes up to the line. Doesn't look like it is going to be an improvement. 158.9, no, isn't an improvement this time round. And we'll go for another lap. Running a little bit wide at turn 1. Might get away with that, but might have also cost themselves this lap as well.
BJ had a absolutely terrible first sector. Wow, look at that. Jeez, 27 seconds off. Farrell's just started a lap.
Let's try and find someone who's on in the middle of the lap. Alex Wood not improving at all. Let's go to Dean Smith. He's just about to complete a lap, but this lap not being representative. Benji Beam's driver hasn't yet got a valid lap on the board. Coming up to the double right-hander of turns 10 and 11. Into the final sector. Of course, having not set a valid time yet, these are personal best sectors, but are still a bit off the pace of the rear end sliding out as they turn into turn 13. Maybe a bit of rear locking there. Now into penultimate corner. Bit wide of the apex. Cuts in for a tight exit though. Hopefully that helps him put down a bit of power. Try and get a good exit. Through the final corner then. Running a little bit wide here. Just needs to keep it on the track, which they do. And we'll see where this time puts them in amongst the LMP3 runners. It is up still 12th within the LMP3 class, 14th overall. So, and runs in a bit deep, sliding off at turn 1 on their next lap.
Really impressive from him in that last sector when you had those rear locks to catch that and at least keep the lap going. So that was good from him, but obviously he seems to be struggling for a lot of grip out there.
It seems like couple more drivers coming into the pits. Let's go to Nazarian, currently sitting second. Non-proofing in the first sector, but isn't too far off at the moment. Into turns 7 and 8 here. Make sure not to run too wide. Try and get the power down through this traction zone, using all of the track on the exit there. Up to the white line. Now it's through turn 9, keeping it relatively tight to open up turns 10 and 11. The car just sliding up over the crest a little bit through 11. Now into the final sector. Did improve in that middle sector, but still not looking the greatest for a pole time. Just the final 2 corners now. Gets the car turned in, even a bit of grass on the inside. Though maybe very wide maybe too wide there on the exit over the white line. Might be slow enough to not invalidate the lap. But we'll see what the time is when they come to the line. They've got a few attempts between themselves and Hagen behind. But any improvement would be nice. Could just help the confidence coming into the race. They come across the line, it will not be improvement. Yeah, losing a lot of time in that final sector.
Looks like the track might be a little bit too wet to really improve right now, but I'm happy to see that a lot of them are still sticking it out and trying to just get the experience of the wet around here. That's good.
Yeah, the experience could be vital for them. The rain has come down a little bit during this qualifying session. but the track not getting much drier as the cars have been running out. Max Farrell now across the line does improve their time. Still a couple of tenths off Stevens in third place. Let's go to Stevens. See how they're doing. They're a little bit wide. That's coming out of turn 5 and not improving in the first sector. So I don't think this lap is going to come much for them. Let's go to some of the GT3 cars. Chris Wacker coming through has invalidated this lap. Coming through the middle sector, no sector time pops up, so that is an unfortunate invalidation for them. Burek coming through turn 9 now, not improving in the first sector and not looking good in the second sector as well. So I'll try and see if someone else is improving. Let's go to Ollie Knowles. Not too far off in the first sector, though not quite a personal best. Currently sitting in 8th place as times run out, so drivers on their final qualifying laps.
Yeah, gently, score track. A little bit nice. Looks like he's struggling. Yeah, lost a little bit more time there in the second sector. Ooh, really? Ooh, what a slide out of there. Saved it though, so that's always important.
Yeah, but it isn't going to do the lap time any good. So don't think this is going to be too much improvement as we're getting to the end session. Let's just have a bring up the full LMP3 field for you to see. 13 drivers. It looks like we're missing one. Yeah, Ollie Knowles coming to a stop here. I think the other driver. Most drivers are already done. Benji Beams not on a great lap, but you can see with these wet conditions, let's just spread the field out. Different drivers having different confidence. Let's have a quick look at the GT3. A little closer, especially that mid-pack. Foreman, Burke, Law, Wacker, Knowles, all very close together from 5th to 8th. But yeah, some of the other drivers, some struggling a bit, some adapting a little bit better to the conditions. And let's see, Dean Smith, I think, has boarded his final lap. And that is everyone done their flying laps. So it's going to be a tricky race here, as this series, different from the previous seasons of the Academy. We are on 2 times fuel usage, 2 times tyre wear, though tyre wear shouldn't be much of a concern for the LMP3 drivers, but the fuel usage will be a bit interesting. Before we get started though, let's of course go through the starting order. At the front, Daniel Johansson is on pole position with Harrison Webb sitting alongside on the front row. Dan Stevens starting in 3rd place, Max Farrell in 4th. Janos Kovacs will be starting in 5th, have Ben Myatt in P6. Matthias Fuskin is in 7th, have Alex Wood in 8th. Then we have Jared Page in 9th place, Dean Smith just getting into the top 10. Tom Watson just missing out in P11, and Benji Beams is our last LMP3 driver on the grid. Tyler is with me here in the commentary box, and Visson did not set a quality lap, so I don't believe he's here. Brian James Anderson takes pole position in the GT3s with Hovsep Nazarian on in 2nd with the class. 2nd row then Matt Hagan and Craig Foreman in 3rd and 4th respectively. Burke is P5 ahead of Ben Law in 6th place in the McLaren. Then we have Chris Wacker in 7th for Ollie Knowles in P8. Christian Schlink starting in P9 and Mark Bryson getting into the top 10 of the GT3 class. Ryan Davies in 11th and Fiona Grasner in 12th. And then that is our field as they now head off from the dummy grid round final corner to get started for our 60-minute race.
A lot of spray already. They're gonna. This is gonna be a lot of struggle in turn one. Hopefully, they all take it easy and you don't see anything. I mean, as much as we like carnage here at the academy, we don't really want it to happen.
Yeah, and with how bright it is, it just makes that spray much worse, much more difficult to see through. Add to that the tight apex of turn one. Things could get interesting for sure, with drivers making their way. Now, waiting for the green flag.
Green flag.
There it is. Get the green. As I now head towards turn one, Harrison Webb coming towards the inside. Johansson very tight line in and is actually going to get taken round the outside by Harrison Webb, who just about keeps it within track limits. But Johansson losing the lead on the opening lap here. Let's have a little look to the GT3s behind. Looks like most of them are getting through cleanly.
There's a little bit of contact somewhere. I think Hagen actually got spun. Yeah, because he's near the back now.
So as they come through, you can see how bad that spray is as they come down the back straight towards turn 5. Oh, looking for a bit of space. Look at the Concertina, the BMW there of Chris Wacker getting into the side of Nazarian. As they come out, you can see the back end of the LMP3s fighting. Yeah, Nazarian getting quite the whack there and having to concede that lead so far. Coming into turns 5 and 6. You can see Chris Wacker has obviously avoided some carnage at the start, managing to get to the lead from 7th on the grid. James Anderson has had a bit of a difficult start, down 3 places into 4th, sorry. And under a little bit of pressure from Ollie Knowles, who's had a good start so far. Drivers still struggling a little bit. Ollie Knowles pouncing to the inside and taking 4th place away. Brian James Anderson really struggling here on this opening lap.
Wonder if he has some damage or something from something that happened earlier. I know when he went through turn 1, he did take a lot of the curb. I think his car almost went on 2 wheels, so he might be struggling a little bit, and that might have scared him and spooked him a little bit. He's just got to settle into a rhythm and get back into it.
It may have done indeed. Now down to P5, but still plenty of race to go as we're just completing the opening lap. Meanwhile, in the LMP3 field, Johansson's lost another place, down to 3rd place now, with Max Farrell taking advantage of that.
So he's went right back down the inside, though. And Farrell almost got the switchback, but didn't really have the grip, it looked like. Johansson just went right through on the inside there. So good move by Johansson there to get that place back and hopefully track down Webb now. Farrell's not giving up, though.
Farrell, bit of a tighter line on the exit, trying to find some traction. Not quite enough to get back alongside, but it's keeping the pressure on into turns 7 and 8. Drivers pushing, you can see the different lines from them through there. Meanwhile, in the GT3, Ollie Knowles trying to attack Chris Wacker and Craig Foreman. Chris Wacker dropping down to 2nd place after that little contact with Nazarian that we seen last lap. Nazarian's got themselves back in front under a bit of pressure from Craig Foreman, but they're now being battled by Ollie Knowles, who has a look to the inside, though Craig Foreman with the momentum on the outside, holding on to 3rd place for now. But it seems like only a matter of time before Ollie Knowles will be able to take 3rd place, and this might be where they take a bit deep into turn 13. And the Porsche able to take the place. BMW's going to try and fight it back into the penultimate corner. Difficult place to put the nose to the inside. Backs out of the move in the end. A little further back, Ben Law has come to grief and had a spin at turn 13, dropping them down to 11th place within the class, and that was Fiona Grasner going for a spin, trying to put the power down out of turn 14.
A lot of front engine cars, I just noticed in this field. I don't know why it took me so long to realize that. Usually they're really good in the wet, so. But that Porsche's really good, so. You know, hey, and Knowles is really showing it. You know, he's fighting as much as he can. He's challenging Whacker now. Gets power down, gets on the outside. Might have the grip on the outside here for the into the hairpin, but Whacker's coming back. Oh, Whacker actually got a really good exit out of there.
I think Ollie Knowles ran a bit wide there and got an illegal overtake for being off the track when making the move and trying to put the power down. Spins the car just like what we've seen from Fiona last lap. Goes for a 360 in the background. So does someone else. That was Ryan Davies.
Oh, Ryan Davies, okay.
In the background. But two Porsche drivers showing how difficult these conditions are, both spinning out of turn 5, trying to put the power down.
Such a tricky corner on exit. Whoa, dear, that was close. Unfortunately, he's went way off the track, but at least he didn't hit the person.
Yeah,
it was Fuchs, it looks like, so.
Yeah, Matthias Fuchskin there with a moment of their own on the exit of turn 8, and the driver's coming up, trying to avoid, but being very difficult to do so, has dropped down into that GT3 field and now has the difficult task of trying to get through. Struggling with the rear end. There's not much pace difference between the two classes, and so makes it very difficult to get the move done. A little bit wide for the Mercedes is going to open the door for Fuchskin. They'll get to the inside, but that might allow a run for the Porsche behind. That's Matt Hagen now trying to capitalise, but on that tight inside line, not quite able to. But maybe with the run here, Schlink just a little bit wide over the final corner. Slipstream down towards turn 1, might have a move on here.
Yeah, he's definitely looking, he's definitely saying, hey, I'm here in your mirrors, and trying to put the pressure on him. Trying to get through. Doesn't look like he's going to get the chance here, but, you know, just kind of keep distracting him, make it be like, hey, I'm here, you know, and force a mistake. Especially in these conditions, it's very easy to force a mistake. So, just trying.
Yeah, well, we've seen 3 separate mistakes in the last 2 laps within the GT3 field alone. A 4th if you include the LMP3 field, very deep on the brakes.
Now.
And that might allow Matt Hagen through, but looks like Matt not quite able to capitalise on it. And will still be behind the Mercedes. Yeah, I've had a moment trying to put the power down. Let's go back up to the top 3 in class. Craig Foreman is in front of Chris Wacker, but both of them running very deep. So is the LMP3 behind of Kovacs now in amongst the LMP3 field as well. Or the GT3 field, sorry. You can see how much the drivers are struggling with these conditions. The rain has slightly decreased. It was a little over 30% when the race started. It's come down to 29%, but still fairly heavy. Track won't be drying up too much. But yeah, track average wetness across the track is 60%. So track not too wet. It could be worse for these drivers.
Yeah, it could be 100% wet. That was really rough when we did the little practice session we had yesterday. That was, oh, it was really bad.
Ollie Knowles trying to recover here, trying to make a move on Ryan Davies, but getting a poor run, and that's into the pit wall for Burek there in the BMW. That's going to be heavy damage, and that could be race over as they slide across the track. Engine is still alive, surprisingly, but that is going to be a long lap to get that back to pit lane.
That was just seemed like he was trying to force his way through and didn't realize he was boxed in or something. Yeesh. Ooh, the Mercedes almost making a move on the LMP3. Hagen going down the inside. And Ben Law is going to take the advantage of the situation now, too. Almost did.
Yeah, quite field here. 5th place, or Christian Schlink leading the way with 4th place in the GT3's Matt Hagen just behind, and Matthias Fusken, who was catching up to this fight to try and pass, has had another mistake through turn 8. Will get going again just as Fiona catches up and gets held up a little bit. But yeah, this fight over 4th place getting quite intense. Will be quite difficult to see through all the spray for these drivers. But plenty of opportunities. Ollie Knowles catching on to the back of this battle will be looking to make up the places that they lost not too long ago, as we have a mistake for our race leader, Harrison Webb, having taken the lead on lap 1, has now made a mistake coming through turn 4 and coming under pressure now from Max Farrell, who's going to try and hang it round the outside of the hairpin here. Not quite going to work out. The will he get traction? Big wobble there for Harrison Webb, struggling with the traction. Will have the nose just on the inside, but thinks better of him, backs out as they head into turn 7 and 8.
Still finding it back, though. I mean, he's trying his best. Yeah, it was a... Webb's very quick, but he doesn't make a lot of mistakes, unfortunately. And like we keep saying, the wet amplifies those mistakes. But oh, we have replays. What do you do?
And we'll see what happened opening up turn 4. Just loses the rear end as they turn in and parked. Ooh, very lucky to be avoided there. Gets the car off the racing line. Thankfully for them, will be no damage. Maybe a bit of a flat spot on those tires, which could be a little bit painful to carry through for the rest of the race. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Is right on the back of Max Farrell and is immediately going to try and take back P2 here.
It's gone really well. Oh, no, he saved it. Okay, good job. Yep. Just in the toe now. Gaining. Probably not going to go for a move here, I imagine. Oh, I spoke too soon. Keeping Farrell honest.
Yeah, keeping Farrell very honest to this point. Now we're coming up to turn 4, where Farrell made the Webb made the mistake 1 lap ago. You can see both of them struggling for traction out of turn 3. Clean run this time from Harrison Webb. Closing a little bit in the slipstream, pokes the nose out, but decides not to make a move into here. Gets on the curb in the braking zone. Can't imagine that will be too helpful, but does get the car slowed down without locking up. Farrell taking a tighter line on the exit, trying to find a bit more traction away from the curb. Into turns 7 and 8, a tighter line, and using more of the exit curb for Webb.
Track is 100% wet now. These guys are really going to start struggling for grip, as we're seeing, with all the wobbling these guys are doing, just trying to get any kind of grip. Oh, could look for a move here. Oh, Farrell closes it off.
Not
Good
quite
racing between these two.
Yeah, not quite wide enough from Farrell to that Webb through. Webb seemingly more confident through 12 when they approach to 13, but Farrell just holding the line. Again, thinking about a move, but it's a very ambitious move to go into 14. Farrell going in very deep, trying to V off the corner. It's going to open up an opportunity for Webb. They'll get alongside, and it will be moved on back into second place. Can Farrell, though, try and get a good exit, use some slipstream towards turn 1 to maybe try and make a counter-attack?
Oh, Webb's defending, so Farrell's definitely close enough to concern Webb. Back to the outside. And looks like Webb's done a really good job defending there. Kept him away for this attack.
Yeah, as we were watching that, we did have this battle in the GT3s. Ollie Knowles has now got to P4 ahead of Christian Schlink, Matt Hagen, and Mark Bryson, which is down to 7th place. Matthias Fuskin is coming up to this pack once again. And once again, just struggling. We'll just ride with Fuskin a little bit just to see the struggles of passing the GT3s, something which the leaders in the class will have to deal with a little bit shortly. Down start-finish strand. Actually, good run here for the BMW. Brian James Anderson, obviously having started on pole position in the class. Very difficult start to the race, though. Finds himself down in 8th place within the class, but trying to come back at Bryson to take P7.
BJ tried to take him on the outside there. Bryson was having none of that and essentially said, you have to go another way. Basically shoved him off. Was straight, and then built up a little bit of a gap now, but Anderson's really good under brakes there, it looks like. He's lost it.
Yeah, so
was Hagen. Almost synchronized, I guess.
Yeah.
That corner's so tricky.
Yes, so tricky. The drivers will have to find a balance between not having the traction control too high, so it's slowing them down in some of the other corners, but making sure it's high enough that they don't have spins. Like what we've seen, quite a few at turn 5 now trying to put the power down. Right, here we have Matt Hagen now in front of Christian Schlink. Schlink is going to try and come back here as I head through the second half of the lap.
Interestingly, the track is at 100%, but the rain is slowing down a bit. We're at 24% rain as opposed to 28%, so maybe about halfway. Oh, it's 22% now. Maybe about halfway through this race, you might see it go back to, instead of extremely wet, very wet conditions, and maybe these guys will start having a little bit more confidence.
Yeah, they're still going through this phase of the track getting wetter and slower, and just having to rein their driving in ever so slightly each and every lap. But maybe in the second half of the race, when the rain, if it does continue to subside, maybe it'll come down enough, start drying a little bit the track, and allow the drivers to start pushing a little bit more again.
Plus, with these GT2s, we got to take into account with them being on 2 times tire wear. Some of these guys might decide to pit for new wets, and that's going to be a real advantage, because new wets have so much grip compared to even 5-10% weared wets.
Yeah, it's just a question of, do you want to give up track position to 5 seconds worth of it to change 2 tires, 12 seconds if they want to change all 4. It'll be interesting to see which way they go.
All the mistakes everyone seems making. It seems like the field's getting a little bit spread out, but everyone has that little small battles in between. We got a couple people close to each other, which is, it's unfortunately with the wet, this is what you're gonna get. But at least these guys are still, they're getting the experience and they're trying to at least make up ground as much as they can.
Just listening to the throttle of Ollie Knowles, balancing it to not run too wide through the final corner. He's catching up to Chris Wacker, who, of course, made a mistake not too long ago. Let's have a comparison of last lap times. Ollie Knowles, 1.2 seconds quicker. How much curb do you want to take on the inside T1? Ollie Knowles says all of it, jumping over onto 2 wheels there. Into turn 3 now. Ollie closing up a little bit. but still got a little bit to go. Meanwhile, we also have a fight between Ben Myatt and Alex Wood in the LMP3 class. Ben Myatt getting the move done to take 5th position now.
Look at Ben, all the way up in 5th. He's doing really well.
Yeah, very similar times between these drivers last lap. They're the hundredths between them. It seems like maybe a little mistake from Alex this lap has held him up. But we'll go back to Ollie Knowles as they continue to try and get themselves back onto the podium. A podium they could have been on already if it wasn't for a mistake in the background. Got a car off. That's Kovacs spinning out of turn 11. But we'll continue with this. Ball here is very deep into 13. Goes Chris Wacker, opens the door for Ollie Knowles, who's going to be on the outside of the penultimate corner. He's going to try and hang it the long way round. Holds
look
Chris.
at the grip difference.
Yeah, holds Chris Wacker to that tight line and does get the move done. But can Chris Wacker try and come back? Is looking to the inside of the final corner. Runs out wide, trying to carry the momentum. Will probably keep the foot in. Take the track limit point and a chance to retake 2nd place here. You can see the BMW closing up but lifting off as they get to the braking zone. Deciding it's too risky to make a move in T1. But Ollie Knowles running a little bit wide, pushing to try and open up a bit of a gap and relieve themselves of the pressure. Will probably also take that track limit point rather than lifting off and risking giving the BMW an opportunity to come back.
That was very much I saw you do it, so I'm going to do it situation type there.
Yeah, let's see. Also got a few cars close here from Matt Hagan, Christian Schlink and Brian James Anderson, who is closing up. So maybe the BMW driver starting from pole position within the class, maybe starting to find a little bit of confidence as the track is now starting to dry up a little bit. It's average wetness back down to 60% where it was towards the start of the race. But still 20% rain, but still a long way to go in this race. Just over 38 minutes remain.
It's only minutes. Wow, it feels like it's been a lot longer. Shows you how absolutely grueling the wet is. It just, makes everything feel so much longer because, I mean, the track times, I mean, the lap times are a little bit longer, of course, but it's just so much going on.
Yeah, well, right on board with Brian James Anderson. Get a little bit of an idea of how bad the spray is. It's not too bad with the track drying up a little bit. The minimum track wetness is down, it's a little lower at 40%, so that'll be around the racing line at parts of the track. But of course, off the racing line, some parts of the track are up at 100% wetness. See how limited that spray is, and just imagine how bad it would have been at the start of the race. Christian Schlink making a mistake there, running deep into turn 1, trying to give up the time for the track limit to not pick up a penalty for it. Now allows Brian James Anderson down the inside and now up to P6 within the GT3 field.
It's like PJ's getting that confidence back. Oh, Wood right on the back of Ben here. Might have a run. Oh, Ben's actually looks like Ben's pitting. It's an early pit stop for him.
Tom Watson came in last lap as well, and it feels very early. We're not even 24 minutes into the race. It's wet, so you should be able to get go a little bit longer into the race. In Portimao, one of the more technical tracks, doesn't have too many straights. Means it's a bit lower on fuel usage. So, Yeah, I'm surprised to see, especially the LMP3s coming in so early. They're usually able to go a little bit longer than the GT3s.
And they do have a 100-liter fuel tank on those things. They don't use that much fuel. So, I mean, I'm all up for alternative strategies. You know, I'm one of the type of people that will, if I think of something on the spot, I'll be like, you know what, it might work. Let's see if it works. You know, worst case, you know, you lose a place, or, I mean, obviously, you can obviously have a lot of worse things happen, but, you know, sometimes it ends up working out.
Yeah, of course. It'll be interesting if they take tires or not. Maybe that's part of the thinking, taking tires now and trying to take advantage of them over the 35 minutes that remain in the race. But meanwhile, Ben Mike comes out of the pits, just meeting Matthias Fuskin on the apex and holding up Ollie Knowles for good measure. I bet Ollie Knowles right now is very glad that the LMP3s have tire warmers. Otherwise, Ben Mike would be a big roadblock for the Porsche.
Oh, definitely.
I suppose this will be a good, interesting comparison. Ben Mike just coming out potentially on new tires, potentially not. We can actually get a little idea for how long Ben Mike was in the pits for. So 1 minute 5 seconds. So that makes a 34-second pit stop. That, I think, might just be fuel only, filling up for a fuel tank. Maybe they think they can get to the end of the race from here.
Yeah, that does only heavily fuel. I think the plan was to just get to a point where you feel comfortable pitting and making sure that you have enough fuel for the end, rather than trying to run it as far as possible and then chance it. I know Ben usually likes to play it a little bit safe, but I mean, it's an alternative strategy. You got to. I mean, maybe he was feeling frustrated with Wood catching him, and he was like, I got to think of something different here, and he throws into the pits to try and maybe even throw Wood off.
Trying to have Wood, you know, start thinking strategy, and especially with how difficult the conditions are, you know, spreading your focus between driving and coming up with the strategy, you know, could just be the thing that causes some of these drivers to make mistakes. But Alex Wood hasn't responded, is staying out for now. Real downside would be for Ben Mike if they do get stuck in traffic. You know, maybe that's why they pitted, to get out of that battle, not lose time fighting wheel to wheel, and then could instead find themselves in a battle with Matthias Fuskin.
He seems to be pulling away, so I think it's benefiting Ben a little bit, because he might be able to use the. I know Fuchs's been struggling, but Fuchs's been pretty quick. So as I say that, though, they gain on each other. But Fuchson, when he's staying there, he's at least a little bit quick.
Yeah, well,
so Ben can use him to pull him along a little bit.
Well, pull him along. Little moments like this will not be helping.
Oof. Yeah, that was a rear lock.
Of course, Ben now having to contend with the spray. Been talking about the rain getting lighter. It is getting heavier again, up to 25%. We've seen as low as 20. Maybe that isn't good news for the drivers. Maybe that will help those that are thinking of taking new tyres. Maybe it won't, but we've got a bit of a battle here. Brian James Anderson continuing their recovery drive after a poor start. Getting up to P4, but only momentarily, running in deep to turn 8. Giving one place up and maybe two as Christian Schling tries to follow Matt Hagen through. But the BMW shutting the door and holding on to P6.
So much happening. Every single time we click on another car, there's something happening. We're only halfway through the race. We've had, BJ way off. Looks like Shinks can take that to his advantage.
With Alex Wood pitting, remember, was in that battle with Ben Myatt. Let's just have a look at the pit time if we can. Let's see. There it is. 1 minute 5 seconds, remember, for Ben Myatt. Alex Wood. It's apparently not updating for Alex Wood. I do have a time here, 54 seconds. So about 10 seconds less in the pits. I wonder if that's less
That's just
fuel,
the fuel difference, I think.
or
I would imagine, yeah. Don't think any tires were changed. I mean, to be fair, 10 seconds is almost a tire change.
Yeah, maybe it's a tire change and Alex Wood has taken on a little more fuel. Potentially. Because I wouldn't expect the fuel difference after only a few laps to be a 10-second difference. That's about a quarter of a tank, 25 litres. Which seems like quite a bit. We have quite a few of the GT3 field in. Chris Wacker, Brian James Anderson and Mark Bryson into the pits here that we can see.
Real question is who takes that. It looks like BJ is taking tires. He's getting out early. Oh, actually, he may be taking a little bit less fuel to try and just get the jump on people.
So the pit times in, Bryson has the shortest at 38 seconds, Brian James Anderson in at 40, Chris Wacker in at 50 seconds. So I'd say that 50 seconds is a definite tire change there for Chris Wacker. So it's going to be interesting to see if they have the pace compared to their fellow BMW driver. Maybe struggling a little bit. 3T1 isn't a great start to the stint.
Yeah, unfortunately. Maybe just not used to the grip that the new tires had and it caught him off.
Yeah, we're starting to see more pit stops as we get to the halfway mark of the race. Of course, drivers will be trying to make these the only pit stops of the race, obviously being helped by the weather and technical track. Chris Wacker, maybe he is on new tires and trying to push to make the most of them, but with the rain getting a little bit heavier, the track getting a bit wetter again, you can see the average wetness is back up to 100%. Just maybe pushing a little too hard in this moment, and it's allowing Mark Bryson to close up and put a bit of pressure on here.
Yeah, I think maybe he thought with you know, it's really tough to be able to tell. You know, with us, we have like a thing that essentially tells us, you know, oh, it's 100% wetness. But when these guys are in the cars, the only thing they have on the car is in the MFD where it just says extremely wet, and that can be anywhere between, you know, 60 to 80% to 100% wetness. They don't know. They have to take everything as just the second they come out of the pits. That's the only information they have, really.
Yeah, so right now it'll be saying 100% is equivalent to extremely wet to what the drivers will see on their MFD. Not the most descriptive, unfortunately. But yeah, we do get a little bit more information on a couple of our apps, such as the min and max wetness. You know, you can say the minimum wetness of the track is still 40%, as we can see both the GT3 drivers here running a little bit wide through the final corner. But yeah, everyone's just going to have to start dialing their driving back a little bit, take it a little bit safer as they close up. I have just noticed our leader last lap around, a 157.4. That is nearly 5 seconds slower than Harrison Webb was last lap. Now, that could have been a little bit of traffic. And again, has lost another 1.1 seconds to Harrison Webb last lap. So it looks like Harrison Webb on a bit of a charge this part of the race, as there is a bit of GT3 traffic here affecting things.
It looks like Webb might have just spun background. Could have been wrong. It did look like it. Oh. Might have just been.
That's Matthias Fuskin, who maybe had another moment.
Webb is fighting that car. He's trying to find he's using every ounce of grip he can get to try and close this gap now.
Yeah, let's go on board and have a look at how Harrison Webb is driving. Just see how much he's pushing. Catching up to GT3 here. Gotta go try and go around the outside, which is a bit brave, squeezing the Porsche to the inside. Hey, luckily for Webb, is able to hold that tight line despite the tricky conditions.
Look at the wobbles. He's really fighting it. He is gaining though, so I mean it is working. That's a little time there, but wonder if he's fighting the flat spots he might have gotten earlier from the other spins. Maybe that's what actually it is.
Could be potentially through the final corner. See more traffic up the road for Johansson. And as they cross the line, let's have a little look at the last two lap times. Half a second slower this time for Harrison Webb. So Johansson picking the pace up again. Maybe just had a bit of a wobble. Mentioned that lap that was a few seconds down on pace. But seems to have maybe lost some confidence, but sort of regained it and is getting back into a rhythm.
Bunch of GT3s at Webb's way too. This is not what he wants to see when he's trying to make that fight back.
But it's the same story for race leader. He has made their way through them now. Oh, but look at that, again onto the grass, trying to pass the Porsche on the inside. That is
everything he can.
That's Nazarian. Webb was getting past and is now sort of in this GT3 battle that we were seeing before they all pitted. They've spread out a little bit since the pits, and in a moment we'll catch up with the order within that GT3 class.
It's interesting. It seems like Osweb is behind him, the majority of the people he was ahead of, so I wonder if he must have at least taken tires. He's definitely a little bit further behind than everyone else.
Yeah, we'll see in a moment, but here's how things stand in the LMP3 class. You can see gaps pretty big up and down the field. That 3-second gap that Harrison Webb had to Johansson has now increased to over 5 seconds. We'll see what the lap times are here, and then we'll check in on the GT3 class, as some of those cars are starting to get a little bit closer. So across the line, and then unfortunately Harrison Webb invalidating their previous lap, picking up some track limit points, and now it has the LMP3 of Ben Myatt to get around. But yeah, let's head to the GT3 field, and we unfortunately go to Ben Law first of all, who's serving a stop-go penalty, possibly for pit speed.
Oh dear. This is why you practice the pit stops, guys. You gotta learn when you can actually hit the brakes.
Yeah.
Especially in the wet. You never know.
Oh, absolutely. And especially in the wet, better to be safe rather than sorry. You don't know exactly just how much grip there is entering that pit lane. It's going to be less than what you've experienced on the racing line for the last how many ever laps you've done at that stage. You know, LMU, the racing line, as cars run over it, it does dry up a bit more than the rest of the track. I mean, that's why we're talking about the minimum wetness of the track. You know, what's the driest parts of it? What are the wettest parts of it? There is a difference between them. And of course, pit entry, not commonly ran over, is going to be a little bit worse. But yeah, go to the lead here. Craig Foreman trying to chase down Ollie Knowles, who has gone for a short pit stop. 39 seconds stopped in their pit box, which is one of the shorter ones. Being chased down by Craig Foreman. Last lap around, Craig was 2/10 slower, but on the previous lap, he was a second quicker. We also have some battles in towards the mid-pack. With Chris Wacker here, who has got themselves into third place ahead of Brian James Anderson, who, remember, came out of the pits in front, but using those new tyres that we suspect they've taken on with the 50-second pit stop to good effect so far. Down in P6, Matt Hagan is trying to check down Mark Bryson. And let's just have the look. 1 second quicker last lap. Mark Bryson, 37-second pit stop, 50 seconds for Hagen. So that is tyres change, and that is Mark Bryson now regretting the tyre change as they went for pirouettes, very similar to Harrison Webb coming out of turn 4.
Very similar. As the track gets worse, you're used to taking maybe in like very wet conditions you can still take that kind of flat, but then Davis one more spin. Those tires are going to be very angry with Bryson unfortunately right now.
Yeah. So just noticing a couple of things to note. Nazarian mentioned dropped back pit stop time 1 minute 26 seconds, and that is timed stopped in the pit box, being longer than some people's time in pit lane entirely. So very slow pit stop there. I have to imagine that was repairing some damage for it to be so long.
We do remember he was hit in the front left at the beginning of the race by Wacker, so I wonder if that was repairing that damage.
That is a very good point. Well remembered from back then. Another driver who's dropped back a bit is Christian Schlink, down in P9 on the back of Fiona Grasner. Again, 51.5 seconds, so presumably a tyre change there. We'll try and get up. You can see 1 minute 23 seconds total pit time. Trying to use those tyres to get to the inside of Fiona Grasner out of the penultimate corner into the final corner. Aston Martin driver going to leave the space on the inside, maybe finds themselves running a little bit too wide, and the LMP3 also trying to get past for good measure, not making things easy there at all. But we'll go to Nazarian as they're trying to chase down Matt Hagen, though I believe both of these drivers may be on new tyres. Let's just see the difference last lap. Unfortunately, one of them, Nazarian, invalidating the last lap, preventing us from seeing the lap time difference.
Seen a lot of that. I wanted we might get to a point where we might see some drive-throughs at the end of this race. A little twitchy out of that corner. Seemed to lose it. Yeah, he really lost a little bit of time there. Definitely, that was I'm losing traction. I need to make sure I save this.
Yeah, if you're going to have a moment, if you can limit it to just a wobble rather than a full spin, that's definitely beneficial. As you can see how much more time you lose if you go for a full spin. Fiona was right on the back of Christian Schlink on the rear bumper. That gap is now growing to about nearly 6 seconds. So very, very costly, a mistake like that.
Law is still pitting. I wondered. It's a long pit. Still.
Yeah, this is now a second pit stop for Ben Law.
Here. Oh, you know what it probably was? He might have. He didn't take fuel. He just sort of stopped going. Now he's taking fuel for it. Fuel, stuff like that.
Potentially 19.3 seconds stopped in the pit box for Ben Law. But we also have our leader of the race in the pits, heading towards pit exit now. 15-second pit stop time, 46.1 in the pit lane. They will come out in second place. Max Farrell is yet to pit, but Johansson...
That's a very short pit. I hope he's putting enough in for the end.
I mean, if he's been saving a bit of fuel, I mean, let's go on board and get the HUD up. That is a sizable lift phase going into turn 5. He
might be playing playing the long game then, definitely.
I mean, a key thing to remember when we have fuel, 2 times fuel usage, the fuel you're using is twice as much. So when you take a moment to save fuel, you're technically saving twice as much fuel as you would be if it was 1x. But the time it takes to put the fuel in the car is still the same as 1x. So if you're saving twice as much fuel out on track, you're also saving twice as much time in pit lane by not having to take the extra fuel on board. So fuel saving, much more important when you've increased the fuel usage. And it seems like Johansson has been using that efficiently. Now has a 27-second lead over Harrison Webb.
It's gaining on Max even with this fuel saving, so he's definitely gonna. Maybe Max made a mistake. Actually, that gap is coming way down. Oh, he's pitting. Max is pitting, most likely.
Yes,
that would make sense.
Just into pit lane, Max Farrell. It'll be interesting to see how long his pit stop is. We'll find out here. Into the pit box. Gets readjusted ever so slightly. Doesn't cost you any time, of course. On LMU, only 15 minutes to go once he comes out of the pits. Game decides to turn him. And there we go, 17.5. That was nearly 2 seconds longer than Johansson. So just playing a little bit safe, maybe not planning on fuel saving between now and the end of the race.
Now let's see if how close Webb's going to be to him when he comes out of the pits. That's the real question for Farrell here. Right on his bumper.
That was a very good point. I wasn't even thinking about him jumping Webb with that short pit stop. You know, that is 19 seconds saved in the pit lane for Max Farrell, and it has gained them a second place. Though it's not a second place they're going to get for free. Webb is going to hunt them down and is going to make this difficult with them closing in as they come towards turn 5. Max going a little bit defensive. Webb not going for a move just yet.
Kind of races where people just kind of make stuff as they go. Really throws a hamper into things, especially you think, oh, I've saved enough, I might be okay, and then all of a sudden there's a car right in front of you coming out of the pits, and you're like, oh no, I haven't done enough. Now I have to fight and hopefully not with the wet, make a mistake and ruin my race.
Harrison Webb looking around the outside of turn 9 there to get the inside for 10 and 11, just couldn't quite keep it there. But it does seem like Harrison Webb is putting the pressure on. Let's go on board with Harrison Webb just to see how they're trying to get themselves back into second place.
Farrell is making that the widest LMP3 anyone has ever seen.
Yeah, rain's coming back down towards the 20% mark. Track drying out slightly. Really keeping the drivers on their toes this weather, just flip-flopping, making minor adjustments. It's not been quite consistent, but a good run out of the final corner there for Max Farrell is going to leave them safe from any move into T1 this lap around.
A little wide on the exit for Max. Allows Webb to close a little bit. Webb is... He really took all that sausage. Wow. Ooh, wow, okay. He's trying to warm his tires up a little bit. Maybe they're too cold.
Interesting to see that there. But Max Farrell maybe just needing a lap to get back up to speed coming out of the pits, feel how the car has changed, the balance has changed, taking on the fuel. And Harrison Webb running a little bit wide there, trying to open up turn 8. It has worked out on the exit here. Whether it's going to be enough to make a move, we'll have to wait and see.
Farrell just playing the defense perfectly here, parking it right on the apex and then getting as much speed as he can out on a quarter exit. Just holding Webb up just enough to keep him behind. Not allowing him to just, send it down the inside or make a desperate move or GT3 traffic ahead, but I think they're going to get past these guys on the straight. So
Max could just awkwardly catch in the middle of this final corner. Could just make him have to delay his throttle application. Harrison Webb going off the track to overtake the GT3. A bit naughty there. And that has given him a run on Max Farrell, who is defending at the last second. Harrison Webb goes to the inside to try and make the move. Does get the move, but Farrell's good, trying to argue the case into turn 3. Take the inside. Harrison Webb going for a cutback. Will be round the outside of turn 4. And does get the move done, though did have to go off track to initiate that move at the final corner. Something that Max Farrell could report for the stewards. Maybe get a post-race penalty to Harrison Webb.
Definitely gained an advantage there, I would say, in my eyes.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, if he didn't go off the track there, you know, would he have had so much momentum to make the move into T1? Probably not. So yeah, a bit of a gaining unfair and lasting advantage. Good argument for it. But Harrison Webb at the moment has got the track position. Let's go try and make a bit of a gap just in case there is a potential post-race penalty. A little further back, we have Tom Watson trying to attack Dean Smith for 7th place.
Dean's tough to get by anyway. Now I'm trying to imagine getting by him in the wet. Oh, I feel bad. Watson's going to have his work cut out for him here.
Less than 10 minutes to go now. Into T1, Dean taking a bit of a tighter line. You can see how much more momentum Tom has thus taken through the corners. Good think by the inside. Try and get the nose there. Dean is going to leave them the space around the outside. But Dean now with a tight compromise line into turn 4. Could be under threat as they come towards turn 5. Tom trying to carry the momentum in the slipstream is closing. Looks to the inside as they get onto the brakes for turn 5. Can Tom get it slowed down on the inside? Does get to the apex. Dean go try and get a cutback, try and get the better traction on the exit, but it's not quite able to. And Tom has the move done for P7 now.
Recovery try from Watson here. I know he started in 11th, so it's good to see him, fighting his way back. Ben Matt has actually, even with his little early pit stop to kind of throw a hamper into Wood, it seems to have actually come up behind Wood, unfortunately, or Wood overtook him at some point. So, didn't work out for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, Wood's pit stop was 10 seconds quicker, but that gap is now 18 seconds. So it seems like Alex Wood has had a little bit more pace than Ben this part of the race, and has been able to open that gap up. Let's go to another battle in the GT3s. Chris Wacker and Matt Hagen. Not too much separating them two. Last lap around, 0.5 of a second quicker was Matt Hagen trying to close in on the BMW driver in front of them. We'll obviously get an update on how that's going this lap. LMP3 coming through as well. But let's see, this lap around nearly 3/10, Matt Hagen closing in on Chris Wacker. The time very much running out if Hagen wants to get themselves up into P5 within that GT3 field.
It's just the only battle we really have two besides Farrell.
Yeah, good point. Farrell hasn't dropped off from Harrison Webb. Is keeping the pressure on, and even if they're thinking of reporting the incident, they'll be trying to get the place back on track anyway, to not have any doubt about it.
Hozvep and BJ are also getting into a fight. Hozvep actually has a purple first sector, hitting on Anderson here, so that might just be a fight in these last coming minutes.
Yeah, it could be indeed. And look at this, Higgins closing up on Chris Wacker. Certainly putting the pressure on, so looks like we're going to have a couple of fights here to the end of the race. That's a GT3 spun round. That's Tom Watson spun round there at the penultimate corner. Loses 7th place that we've seen him get to Dean Smith. But the LMP3s not making it easy for these GT3s, trying to close up on one another. LMP3 showing patience there on Chris Wacker. And we'll get them on the exit of the corner. Not slowing the GT3 down too much. Of course, Wacker will have to contend with the spray. Yeah, that's... then Harrison Webb potentially catching up now. But these little things, just lose half a second from an LMP3 passing you could be the difference. Webb trying to lick up the inside here. Does make the move. But that just holds Chris Wacker up. Chris has to take that wider line through the corner. And look at that. Hagen half a second closer. Wide entry to the penultimate corner here for the BMW, trying to set up the exit. Hasn't quite worked out. The Porsche's closed in, and if the Porsche can have a good run through the final corner, we'll be in slipstream range. But looks like just Matt Hagen not quite able to carry the speed. Runs out wide as well with an LMP3. That's Farrell trying to get through. Compromises them. And just allows Wacker to pull out an extra couple of car lengths, keeping them safe into turn 1.
It's like Hozvep is right on the back of Anderson now, too.
Are indeed. Last lap around, nearly half a second gained, but time certainly running out. This could be the penultimate lap of the race for these drivers. Whether they get one more lap or two more, it depends entirely on Johansson at the front of the LMP3 field. But yeah, two battles now going on. Hagen trying to get past Chris Wacker for 5th place. Nazarian trying to get past Brian James Anderson for 3rd place. And now those LMP3s we've seen in that previous battle now making their way through this fight for the podium in GT3.
And that's Webb and Farrell behind too, so that gap is now super close between Webb and Farrell. So
yeah, look at that. Webb
traffic
just
is
not able to find a place to make the move. And look at that, Farrell nearly into the back of Webb there. Just how much it's held Webb up and really brought Farrell back into the fight for 2nd place on track here.
compromise.
Contact, I think, between Hagen and Wacker. Both of them sliding sideways through the final corner there. Hagen gets going. Chris Wacker, I think, maybe stalled the car eventually gets going, but having lost a lot more time. Watch the rejoin as an LMP3 comes past. But unfortunately, that brings a premature ending to that battle. Let's just try and find out what caused it. It's a very odd line from Wacker, very tight on the inside coming through, and then just on such a tight line, washes well out through the final corner, getting into the side of Hagen. Yeah, very confusing there. Struggling to understand what Wacker was doing on such a tight line out of the penultimate corner and into the final corner.
I wonder if he made a mistake the previous corner and it was the only line he could take. Be on traction and just put the foot down a little bit too early.
Odd one for sure. Another driver to find the grass on the exit of turn 8, Dean Smith, and that returns the 7th place to Tom Watson. Johansson has just crossed the line as a dive from Nazarian into turn 13 on the inside of Brian James Anderson, taking 3rd in the GT3 field with just
very aggressive.
very aggressive indeed. 1 lap to go here for these drivers. Does Brian James Anderson have anything to try and fight back with?
If they still have another lap to go, I think Anderson might return the favor a little bit later if he gets the opportunity.
Might do. 1 lap left. Oh, he's sending it into T1. Can he get it stopped before he runs it in too deep? Just about keeps it on the track. But maybe did run off the track, and either way, has returned to place to Nazarian. Very brave attempt into T1 there.
I think he actually scared Nazarian there. That's the only reason. Maybe that's why he gave it back. He didn't feel like it was a right move because he basically almost hit him. So.
Yeah, and is that opportunity gone now as Chris Wacker, I think, running out of fuel, is waiting for our race leader to come across the line. Still a corner to go for Daniel Johansson. Lost the lead into T1 with Harrison Webb getting round the outside, but used a fuel-safe strategy. A mistake from Webb gave them the lead back, but the fuel-safe strategy in the end opened up a 30-second lead. It'll be Johansson that takes the win here at Portimao as Harrison Webb is fighting on to try and hold up. Ollie Knowles comes through to take the GT3 win, showing great pace throughout the fight. Even a little mistake couldn't stop him as he found himself at the front of the field in the end. Craig Foreman has come through to take 2nd place within the class. And this GT3 battle looks like it will be. Brian James Anderson has dropped 3 seconds back and will take 3rd place. Here's the run to the line. Harrison Webb just about holding off Max Farrell at the end there for P2 and P3, but could potentially see a post-race penalty if Farrell reports that overtake for running off track. And Harrison Webb, little bit of a donut.
He's trying.
Matt Hagen coming across the line as well for 15th in the class. And that is nearly everyone done. Just a couple of more cars. Christian Schlink has unfortunately had a bit of a poor run at the end of the race. A bit of a longer pit stop. Dropped some places down towards the bottom end of the top 10. Yeah, I think they might be a little bit disappointed with that. Ben Myatt coming through to take P6 in class. Not a bad result for Ben. And our final car to cross line will be Fiona Grasner. in the Aston GT3.
Credit to Ben Law, by the way. I think at one point I saw that he was 6 laps down. He still finished the race. So
Well, with that, it is the end of the race, and let us get up our results then. The LMP3 class, it was Johansson taking the win ahead of Harrison Webb in second. Max Farrell in third place, Dan Stevens in fourth. Alex Wood getting a top 5 result. That is a good result for them. Have Ben Mai in P6. Tom Watson in seventh. Dean Smith in P8. Matthias Fuskin in ninth. Jarrett Page in P10. Benji Beams in 11th with Kovacs, DNFing and Vincent not in attendance. Look then to the GT3s. It'd be Ollie Knowles that takes the win ahead of Craig Foreman in second. Nazarian fighting for the podium, and we take it on the final lap ahead of Brian James Anderson. Disappointing race. Mistakes at start dropped down the order, and we'd only recover to fourth place. What could have been for them? Mike Hagan would take P5 with Ryan Davies in P6. Christian Schlink in 7th. Fiona Grasner taking P8. Chris Wacker, first driver to finish a lap down, short on fuel. Had to wait for the leader after an instant with Matt Hagan, so we'd only finish P9. Mark Bryson in P10. And then we had Ben Law finishing 8 laps off the lead in 11th, and Burke DNFing after that instant. A heavy collision with the pit wall.
genuinely a fantastic race. There was so much action.
Yeah, good action throughout. Very difficult challenge for the drivers. We did see the odd mistakes throughout the race, but it wasn't like the mistakes were overwhelming the race. Quite a few of the drivers did a good job out there today.
Yeah, especially I mean, you got to give credit to Ollie Knowles, even with spinning out and having a little bit of a mistake early on in the race. He stuck with it, fought back, and ended up winning. So
yeah, indeed. Shows you just, even if things don't go too well at start or even midpoint of the race for Ollie Knowles, there's still a chance, especially with the strategy at play in our Sim Hound Academy Cup series. You can always pull it back. That's it for a difficult round at Portimao. Next week, for round 3, we are heading to the high-speed Silverstone, of course, the latest track to come to the Mon Ultimate. Back in dry conditions, should be an interesting one for the drivers to get used to.
yeah, the LMP3s are really good around there. So that'll be a lot of fun for those drivers at least. And then of course, GT3s are just fantastic in this game anyway. So they're obviously going to have fun there.
Yeah, and the multi-class interaction with some of the higher speed corners could be interesting. Maggots, Beckett's, Albion Farm Corner. Yeah, could be interesting. So yeah, make sure you join us next week for Portimao. But of course, between then and now, we have some more great racing. Tomorrow, iRacing continues on with their third round of the iRacing Club Challenge. They're heading to Lime Rock in the MX5s. Unfortunately, after Aiden's PC dying on him, we'll unfortunately not be able to cover next or tomorrow's race. Hopefully, Aiden will get his PC sorted. In fact, he's getting a new PC, so might be a couple of weeks, unfortunately, missing from the iRacing series on streams, but they're still racing away. Of course, if you are interested in iRacing, I believe the series signups are still open if you want to take part in the 4 rounds that remain. So yeah, not too late to take part. Also not too late as well to take part in our return to ACC, back in the game with the GT3s. They are heading to... I said this yesterday, where they were heading to.
I've forgotten too.
Yeah, but our GT3s on ACC heading to Zolder. Yes, of course, Zolder, a track we're seeing. Obviously, don't have to enjoy on LMU, but we will be enjoying on our IC series later this season. But yeah, all the chicane chaos for the GT3s bouncing over the curbs. Yeah, they're racing on Sunday. If you want to take part, of course, signups are open our on our SimGrid page. Then our streams will return on Monday once again when we back on the Mon Ultimate for the OLMS series with the GT3s and the unrestricted LMP2 cars. They are heading to Monza, and not just Monza itself, but the Curva Grande out. More top speed action after the Mon this week. Hopefully it'll be interesting. Hopefully we don't see too many GT3s dying through Curva Grande, especially if they're being lapped by those pesky LMP2s. And that's before on Tuesday we have our AC IDTT Trophy, 3 50-minute races, 1 reverse grid with the ITT, that they are heading to Watkins Glen Short Classic this week. So no inner loop chicane to worry about. Full speed into the outer loop, taking the shorter NASCAR layout around there. She make for some plenty of good action, plenty of slipstream opportunities, and quite a bit of strategy options for the push to pass that those cars have. We'll be back with them on Tuesday next week before me and Tyler return next Wednesday for round 3 of the Sim Hound Academy Cup at Silverstone. So that's what we have in store for the upcoming weekend for this season 6 of 2025 here at oNiD. Before we get going, any final words, Tyler, after that difficult race at Portimao?
No, just it's good for these guys to get that experience. It's always good.
Yeah, always good. Very worthwhile experience in tricky conditions. Thank you all very much for joining us this evening. Hope you joined the races. Hopefully, we'll see you back next week when our streams returned. If not, hopefully, we'll see you on track either tomorrow or Sunday. Till then, take care, everyone. Have a good evening, and we'll see you next time. Good night.